time for some real education. You know, that kind of thing that used to happen before the schools were taken over by all these idiots. Today we're looking at classical mythology, some of the great images and stories of classical mythology, but with a twist, right? We're not looking at them in their classical context. We're not looking at the classical world's understanding of these mythologies. We are looking at how modern and postmodern man deals with this. How are those stories that have been with us for all this time, how are they reified? There's a fancy word for you. How have they been appropriated and employed in postmodern and modern context? So take a look at our image for today. One of the great stories of the classical world, Leda and the Swan. This particular version of the story, if you close in on the picture, it's actually a painting by the Polish artist Jerzy Hulewicz, 1928. He was a Polish painter, draftsman, and printmaker. Died in 1941. He was an expressionist, belonged to the group known as Bund, which was close to the German group Die Aktien and Die Strom, and he made many exhibitions all around and in Poland and abroad, also specialist in woodcut illustrations. Leda and the Swan, of course, is the modern depiction of an ancient story, a subject from Greek mythology. The story tells how the ancient Greek king of the gods, Zeus, in the form of a swan, seduces and ultimately rapes Leda, and that's what's taking place there. In some version of the myth, Zeus rapes Leda, and one of the children that Leda bore was a beautiful daughter who would become to be known as Helen of Troy. So in this rape, in this the inability of Zeus to contain his lust, he takes the shape of a great big swan. He violates this innocent queen. She ends up giving birth to 4 children, 2 demigods, Castor and Polydeuces, children of the gods, and 2 girls, Clytemnestra and Helen. Clytemnestra would go on to be the very wife of King Agamemnon. So you see Helen of Troy, right? And then Clytemnestra and Agamemnon. So what you're being told here in this picture, and it really is kind of a nice depiction of this, from this one simple act that seems random and violent, these 4 children are born. In this moment, the seed is planted, right, for what would become the great tragedy of the classical world. The destruction of Troy. 20 years, many of the Greeks would be away from home. Many of them would have died on the plains of Troy. 10 years, the war itself would take before Troy was brought down. All of that horror that would completely define Western culture in many aspects was planted by this one act of divine lust. Very interesting take on an ancient classic.